I'm doing it on this day for the entire month of February in honor of Black History Month. On February 5th, 1870, Congress passed the Enforcement Act of 1870, also known as the First Ku Klux Klan Act or the Civil Rights Act of 1870. This was one of several Reconstruction-era laws designed to enforce the 15th Amendment, which had been ratified just days earlier on the 3rd, 1870. The act sought to protect Black Americans' rights to vote and aimed to prevent racial discrimination at the polls by imposing federal penalties on individuals who attempted to intimidate or prevent Black citizens from voting. This act made it a federal crime to use force, threats, or bribery to prevent someone from voting based on their race. It also added federal oversight and gave the federal government power to oversee elections in states where discrimination was common. This law was an early attempt to curb the white supremacist violence and ensure Black Americans could participate in democracy. Now, even though they passed this, of course, there was still resistance from southern states. Many white Southerners, especially former Confederates, saw this as a federal overreach and an attack on states' rights. States' rights to do what? Despite the law, white supremacist groups like the KKK continued using violence to suppress Black political participation. On top of this, there was a lack of enforcement. Many local and state officials outright refused to enforce the law, and white Democrats in Congress and state legislatures worked to weaken its impact. I can do a video on the Great Swap some other time about when Democrats and Republicans switched. One other issue with this law is that over time it was weakened by the judiciary. So the Supreme Court limited the law's effectiveness, paving the way for Jim Crow laws and other voter suppression tactics that lasted well into the 20th century. While this act did lay the groundwork for protecting Black voter rights, it really didn't go far enough, and it had a lot of holes, and one of the first instances of times where we could see how weak law enforcement can be if it doesn't have the right backing by the public, by the judiciary, or even by the legislatures.